Good morning. Welcome to another class of Criminal Procedure Code. Today we are going to discuss about NFIR, First Information Report. Okay, in detail, we'll be discussing about the basic concept of an FIR, the procedure to be followed after filing of an FIR, and the related concepts. Starting with the recapitulation of the previous classes, in the last lecture, we were talking about understanding the trial process under CRPC. Along with this, we have dealt into and discussed in detail the understanding of different types of trial under CRPC, ranging from session trial, warrant trial, in between warrant trial as well, warrant trial on police report, warrant trial otherwise than on police report, a trial by court of session, as well as a summary procedure of trial known as a summary trial. As well as in the last lecture, we were talking about the understanding of difference between investigation, inquiry and trial. So what is the procedural difference between investigation, inquiry and trial, and what are the substantive differences? This we have done in the previous class. Coming to the objective of the present class, in this class we'll be discussing about or understanding the concept of first information report, along with the understanding of the investigation process which is being followed after filing of an FIR, along with the related procedures which are required to be followed after filing of an FIR, the basic requirements. An introduction of the topic. A first information report is a written document prepared by the police when they receive information about the commission of a cognizable offense. So this is, you have to notice or you have to keep in mind that first information report is only about cognizable offenses. So for non-cognizable offenses, FIR cannot be filed. Further on, it is a report of information that reaches the police first in point of time. So as the name suggests, it is the first information. The report of the first information about the commission of a cognizable offense. So it is a report of information that reaches the police first in point of time, and that is why it is called as first information report. It is generally a complaint. Now don't get confused by the word complaint, because complaint is a separate term under CRPC. In here we are only talking about a kind of allegation or an information in relation to commission of a cognizable offense which is reaching the police station. So it is generally a complaint lodged with the police by the victim of cognizable offense. Now it is not necessary that always the victim will be filing an FIR. FIR can be filed by some other person on his or her behalf. Now this person can be related by blood, this person can be a passer by, okay, any other random person can file an FIR. There is no restriction in that regard. Coming to the concept of FIR, okay, I have divided into 4 parts to make you understand different concepts related to FIR. First information report, first of all, is a written document. So FIR cannot be in an oral sense. Even if you are going to the police station to file an FIR and the police officer is recording that FIR, all those oral statement has to be recorded in the form of a written document. So FIR has to be a written document prepared by the police officer when they receive information about the commission of a cognizable offense. Now technically FIR can be registered in 2 ways. Ultimately it is the police officer who will be recording this written document of FIR. You although can make an oral statement which can be jotted down by the police officer, or you can write the contents of the FIR or the contents of the incident by yourself as well. After writing these contents, you can submit the same to the police officer and he will be reiterating the same in the form of an FIR. Next is, it is a report of information that reaches the police first in point of time. As we have discussed this in the previous point of introduction as well, that this is the first information which is reaching the police officer. So if a person files an FIR or gives an information about the commission of a cognizable offense. Then a second person comes and he gives the commission of the same cognizable offense to the police officer. Now the second information cannot be considered as an FIR because it is the second information. So information which reaches first to the police officer is always considered as an FIR. Next is, it is generally a complaint lodged with the police officer by the victim of a cognizable offense, whether by the victim himself or by some other person on his behalf. Next is, anyone can report commission of a cognizable offense, either orally or in writing to the police officer. So any random person, as I have pointed out, any random person can go and file an FIR. There is no concept of locus standi while filing an FIR. Even if the person is not related to the victim, even if the person is not related to the accused, even if the person is not related to the crime itself or the place of the crime, he can still go and file an FIR. This is just an intimation as a law-abiding citizen that such and such cognizable offense has been committed within the local vicinity or the police station. Now, even a telephonic message can be treated as an FIR, although there are certain requirements to be fulfilled, because FIR has to be signed by the informant, the person who is giving the information to the police officer. So if you are giving the information over a telephone, later on you have to go there and sign the copy of the FIR to make it confirm. Otherwise, if a telephonic conversation is not followed by a confirmation, it will be considered as a cryptic information and it will not be considered as a proper lodging of FIR. Now, FIR, the concept of it, there is no clear definition being given as such. So under section 2 of CRPC, you will not find a separate definition of FIR. FIR has been covered under section 154 of CRPC. So we are going to do a basic reading of section 154 to understand the concept of FIR. Now 154 says information in a cognizable offense. So it is always an information about a cognizable offense. Every information related to commission of a cognizable offense, if given orally to an officer in charge of a police station, shall be reduced into writing by him or under his direction. Along with this, the further procedure is that it should be read over to the informant. And every such information, whether given in writing or reduced into writing, shall be signed by the person giving it. So this is what is important. It should be signed by the informant who is giving the information. And the substance thereof shall be entered into a book known as an FIR diary to be kept by the police officer in such form as the state government may prescribe in this behalf. Provided that for certain offences there are certain additional requirements while filing an FIR. These additional requirements have been brought to 2013 amendment in criminal law, which brought different provisions in relation to offences being committed against women. So provided that if the information is given by the woman against whom an offence has been committed of 326A, 326B, these are offences where acid attacks has been used to cause grievous hurt. Then section 354, 354A, 354B, 354C, 354D. These are offences of against women when it comes to outraging the modesty, sexual harassment and related offences. Then section 376, 376A, 376B, 376C, 376D, 376E. These are offences in relation to rape and aggravated forms of rape, gang rape, repeated offense of rape. And 509, which talks about insulting the modesty of a woman, is alleged to have been committed or attempted, then such information shall be recorded by a woman police officer. Okay, so you have to keep in mind, for all these offences, the information, it is directed to be recorded by a woman police officer or at least a woman officer. Provided further that in the event that the person against whom an offense of 354 ABCDE, sorry ABCD, 376 ABCDE or 509 is alleged to have been committed or attempted, is temporarily or permanently mentally and physically disabled. So if this offense against women, the woman is physically or mentally, permanently or temporarily disabled, then such information shall be recorded by a police officer at the residence of such person. So at the residence of that woman. Seeking to report such offense or at a convenient place of such person's choice. So at the place of residence of the victim, who is a female being a victim of offense against women, and this woman is temporarily or permanently mentally and physically disabled, or at any convenient place as per the choice of the victim, in the presence of an interpreter or special educator as the case may be. Now, as this female victim is mentally or physically disabled, depending on the disability, there is requirement of, for example, this female victim is a mute person. She cannot speak. So she must be using some kind of sign language. To interpret that sign language, a special educator or interpreter can be brought by the police officer while recording the statement. This female victim can be mentally disabled. In such cases, a special person, special educator who can understand the communication being made by such handicapped or such mentally disabled person can be brought while recording an FIR. So this is an interpreter or a special educator. Next is the recording of such statement shall be videographed. So if as this female is physically and mentally disabled, there can be questions upon the interpretation of her communication to the interpreter or special educator. To rebut such kind of future conflicts, there is a direction that these recordings should be videographed so that their verification can be done or their questions of interpretation can be nullified at a future point of time by using such videographed recording of statements. Next is the officer shall get the statement of the person recorded by a judicial magistrate. Now this is a popular option in front of the police officers, that whenever such information is being given to a police officer, they are recorded under section 161, for which the evidentiary value is given under section 162. Now section 162 says that all such information given have no evidentiary value unless there are exceptions being given. So majority of the times these statements being recorded in front of a police officer has no evidentiary value. To give them a specific evidentiary value, it is directed that these statements should be recorded in front of a magistrate even during investigation under section 164 clause 5a to give them an evidentiary weightage. Next is a copy of the information recorded under subclause 1 shall be forthwith given free of cost to the informant. This is an important right of the informant, that whenever the informant is giving information and lodging an FIR, a copy of a full proved affiliated signed copy of the information should be given forthwith, immediately, free of cost, without any charge to the informant. Now if a police officer refuses to file an FIR, then the remedy lies in section 154 clause 3. What is that remedy? Any person aggrieved by a refusal on the part of an officer in charge of a police station to record the information referred to in subclause reference substance of such information, he can write that in writing or send it by post to the superintendent of police concerned, if he is satisfied that such information is based on reliable grounds of the commission of a cognizable offense. Now this superior police officer to whom a request has been sent that your junior police officer is not recording the FIR, he can either investigate himself or direct an investigation to be done by a police officer junior to him. And while he decides to investigate himself, he will assume all the powers of the officer in charge of a police station. So this is the remedy available if the police officer refuses to file an FIR. Now the question is, who can lodge an FIR? Okay, there are different kinds of persons. There is no restriction as such. Anyone who knows about the commission of a cognizable offense can file an FIR. It is not necessary that only the victim of the crime should file an FIR. So even if the victim is, for example, not in a condition to file an FIR, an offense of murder, the victim is obviously dead. So a dead person cannot come and file an FIR. An offense of rape, the female may not be in a condition or may not be willing to file an FIR. So in all the conditions of all the possible offenses you can think of, any person, though he is not related to the crime or the victim or the accused, he can still come and file the FIR if he has knowledge about the commission of the offense. Secondly, a police officer who comes to know about the commission of a cognizable offense can also file the FIR himself. So take for example, a police officer receives a phone call in his police station about the commission or about a dead body being lying at such and such place. He goes to the respective spot of commission of the crime. Now this information has not been given tangibly by a person who is ready to sign the FIR. In such cases, the police officer himself can become the informant and he can himself file an FIR. Now, you can file an FIR. For example, you want to file an FIR and you want to know whether you are eligible to file an FIR. If you are a person against whom the offense has been committed, means you are a victim, you can file an FIR. If you know yourself that the offense has been committed, so if some of your relative or some connected person told you that such and such offense has been committed, then also as it comes to your knowledge, you can file an FIR. Or you have seen the offense being committed yourself. So this is a direct evidence. You are a primary witness, you are an eyewitness who has seen the commission of the offense. In such case also you can file an FIR. What are the contents of an FIR? Okay, so you have to keep in mind whenever you are filing an FIR, these things are to be required to be mentioned in the FIR. First of all, your name, that is the name of the informant, and the address of the informant while filing an FIR. Secondly, the date, time, location of the incident you are reporting. So exact date of the commission of the offense, approximate time. You may not know the exact time, the approximate time when such offense has been committed, and the specific location where the offense has been committed by the accused. Next is the true facts of the incident as they occurred. So the basic facts of the case, you can call it the facts of the case. The facts of the incident, in what manner the person has committed the offense, or at least what facts you are aware of or it is within your knowledge, should be stated while filing an FIR. And lastly, name and description of the person involved in the incident. So the name of the victim, if you know the name of the accused, if you are aware of. Although even if the name of the accused is not known, it will still be considered as a valid FIR. For the purpose of understanding the mandatory nature of the FIR, that FIRs are mandatory to be filed by the police officer, you can refer to the landmark case given by Supreme Court of Lalita Kumari versus Government of Uttar Pradesh. This is a very famous case where Supreme Court has laid down a lot of guidelines in regard to filing of FIR. Now, early recording of FIR is an essential part. So as soon as the FIR is filed, it will have more evidentiary value. So early recording of FIR helps in the arrest of the real offender and also helps in the collection of evidence of the crime. The version given in the FIR recorded without undue delay is considered more reliable by the court. Delay in reporting the matter to the police can raise suspicion that the version may be colored or concocted or exaggerated accounts of the incident of innocent person who may have been roped in the case, and the reason for delay should be explained in the FIR. So these things have to be kept in mind while recording FIR. For reference purpose, you can refer to the Baer Act of Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, the Code of Criminal Procedure by Justice Y.V. Chandrachud and V.R. Manohar along with Ratanlal Dhirislal. And finally, you can refer to R.V. Kelkar or Criminal Procedure Code published by Eastern Book Company. Thank you.